So welcome back to part 2 of chapter 8, Managing Project Stakeholders and Communication. Just a note, I've got a slight cold. I apologize if I cough and hack into the microphone during this presentation. Just had some great tea, so I'm hoping that'll help that issue. So where we left off was Project Matrix, and what we're going to talk about now is that when we create metrics, we get a qualitative measure of some attribute of the project. And we're going to look at a few of these, okay? But metrics should focus on sort of the key success areas. We've got an example of the triple constraint in project management here. You know, the idea that these are all dependent on one another. If we don't have enough resources, there's an increased risk. Quality may suffer. Everything else, schedule, scope, budget may suffer. You know, budget, if we don't have the proper amount of budget, everything else is going to suffer. You get the idea, okay? And of course, anytime quality is going to suffer if we don't have enough resources, ample time, increased risk, focused, really focused scope, etc. So just some things to keep in mind, as to what affects that. So understandable, metrics should, first of all, yes, be understandable. We shouldn't create metrics that people can't understand and that we can't easily explain what the metric represents, right? It needs to be quantifiable and auditable. You see that there. Someone else should be able to come behind us with the same data and get the same results. So remember, we've talked about in project management, items being auditable, and, anything that's quantifiable should be able to be auditable by someone else and get the same results, right? So, cost effective, of course, we don't want to spend more creating and managing these metrics than we are for the project. Proven, which means it's been used and, and the theory behind some metric has been proven on multiple projects. When it's measured, we know it's correct. And of course, high impact or why bother? So the idea behind that is, why study something that has no value, okay? Takes us away, right? We lose that scope in managing metrics that will help us to know, are we on budget? Are we on time? Are we on quality? All those things. So measurement systems should allow the team to gauge its own progress. Now, again, you heard me say with the ability to audit. So it needs to be auditable by an independent person or an independent team. So that could be the governance group that's overseeing the project, okay? Be designed by the project team. I agree with that. However, again, because we want to make sure that it can be audited by someone independent, it should be easily to understand. Because if we're the project team and we're doing metrics on our own project, and we have a stake in this project, well, easily you can see how that can become a challenge. We want to see the project succeed, right? I think you get what I'm saying. So adopt and use only a handful of measures. Again, we don't want to over-measure, just like we don't want to over-scope. We want to track the results and progress. We can do that with an Excel, which means we can measure now. We can get a sampling like you see here in this Burndown chart. So in Agile, the idea of burn down, as you can see, so we have two things here, and the straight line is what was estimated our burn down to be, and then the curved line is our actual burn, okay? So as you can see, we had a high expenses, at the start, then they kind of lowered underneath. All in all, if we average it out, that's where we should be. Shows the scope, the features, of functionality of the work is being completed over time. All of these metrics should be put into a visual format. Okay, that's what we love about Excel, right? And that's what we love about Gantt charts and PERT charts and all the charts and the use case diagrams, is that they're easier to understand because we're not looking at the raw data. We're looking at a representation of the data, and in cases, representation of the data over time, right? So as you can see, we hit the mark. there. It was up and down, but we didn't see any sort of abnormality that we should worry about. Okay, so that takes us into this first metric of earned value. Okay, so I'm just going to read this direct. It's an approach where you monitor the project plan, actual work, work completed, value to see if a project is on track. Earned value shows how much of the budget and time should have been spent, considered the amount of work done, and we're going to look at an example here. So, in this case, suppose you signed a contract with Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe for developing an IS project, an information system, okay, capital IS. Project budget for tasks, 40,000, 4 months, 20 tasks. Do the math, $2,000 per task, 5 tasks per month, and we should be complete. So as we start to look at this, here's sort of a schedule. Remember, we said 5 tasks, so we've got the first 5 tasks, each task at $2,000. Thus, $10,000 here, $10,000 in month 2, $10,000 in month 3, $10,000 in month 4. Now, this is what we're estimating. So this is our starting place to understand, is the project on track? Okay. So as we look at this, then there's the idea of, earned value, planned value. So according to PM Bach, planned value is the authorized budget assigned to work to be completed for an activity or a work breakdown structure. So in our case, right, each activity or task is $2,000. The planned value each month then is $10,000. So we should see value from each part as we complete the task. Now understand, that doesn't mean that we're putting the IS system into play to where it starts earning back that return on investment. We just want to know, are we seeing the value over time, over the months? Okay, so phased budget is completion, often referred to as budgeted at completion. It refers to the sum of all values, so in this case, $40,000, right? And it is the total cumulative planned value. So again, our planned value each task is $2,000. Our planned value each month is $10,000. And then our budgeted at completion is $40,000. So if we go back here, we see 4 months, $40,000. So as we look at this, we can start charting things like our planned value. So, over time, this would be a planned value curve. Now, this is not the planned value curve for our project. This is an example of a planned value curve, dollar, time. Okay, so, if we would say, break this, call this month 2. We would go month 1 here, month, 3 here, and we would have an idea, spending $10,000. If we did it linear, we'd see 10, 20, 30, and then to 40. Okay, and then a curve. Okay, now in our case, because it would be the same amount, we would see a linear, a linear line. Then we would start seeing curve lines as we started spending money, as we'll see in a minute. Our first month's bill is not going to equate to what we expected it to be, and you'll see that. So, status line is where we're at. We can look at, again, the planned value, the actual cost. So as you can see, we're actually under with actual cost, and we're under with earned value. So we know that if we follow this, ultimately what we'd like to see is all 3 lines sitting on each other, but realistically, that's not going to be the case. Okay, so suddenly we get this invoice for the first month. I've just falsified an invoice here. First month, 8,000. Notice, we'll go back here. First month, we were expecting 10,000, and we ended up with a bill for 8,000. Now, I certainly wouldn't pay this bill because it's a cumulative sum. And as you remember, we had tasks, individual tasks that we valued at 2,000 apiece. So the question I want to see is what tasks were completed in this month. Now, if only 4 tasks were completed, then we are behind schedule because we had an expectation of 5 tasks. We would know that only 4 tasks were completed if, in fact, That's what we were told. So we expected to pay $10,000, but we were only being billed for $8,000. Are we really ahead of our budgeted or planned value by $2,000? Okay, that's what we need to determine, and we determine that with that work breakdown structure. What actually has been done? Because if all the work's been done and we're at 8,000, then yes, we are ahead. So it depends on what work has been accomplished for 8,000 and what was due, So here's just a rough chart that says, okay, month one projected costs. Here's what we planned. This is what we actual. Okay. And of course, without more information, we can view this as being ahead or behind. So suddenly, we look at this, we ask for a different invoice, we see tasks, and we see, okay, well, task one actually was completed for 2,000. That's what we expected. But task 2 and 3 were completed for 1,000 over the estimated value. Now, if task 4 and 5 are completed at 1,000 apiece, then we're back to budget. But at this point in month one, we're concerned because we're in month one. We expected 5 tasks to be done for 10,000, and we only have 3 tasks done. So maybe things are not as good as we thought. And in this case, with this breakdown structure, we know that they're not. We know that they're not where we expect to be. Okay. So as you can see here, in thousands, right? One month, this is where we expect to be on the planned value. We expect to have a budget at completion of 4 months and 40,000. But in fact, at 1 month, we are at 8,000. And right away, just with this chart, you can see that we're not keeping to our expectations. So actual cost, the actual cost incurred for completing an activity or component of the work breakdown structure. So for example, in our example, right, completed task was $3,000, or we have to write a check for 8,000 for only 3 of the tasks. Now, if we were writing a check for 8,000 with 4 of the tasks, we wouldn't be as worried, right? So then we looked at earned value, which is a performance measure that tells us how much of the budget we really should have spent. Well, of course, what we know is that we paid 8,000, but what we expected was 6,000 of earned value on 3 tasks. So we are actually behind. We've spent 2,000 more than we should have. Okay. Now, especially in month one, if we then played this out, okay, if we then just took that line, let's go back to that line. We took this line, and played that out. You can see that we're going to end up in trouble. Okay. We just project this line out here and we see, suddenly we're out here, maybe at 40,000, maybe not. Whoops. Sorry about that. We're like out here. And when we hit here, we're at month 5 before we hit 40,000. Okay. Now it could be a time thing, or we could see time and cost play into it. And that's what we're seeing in our example. So planned, actual, and earned. So planned, this is what we planned. We planned for 2,000 per task, not to over accentuate that, with a total of 10,000, for month one. Here's where we are, and here's the earned value. So what we should have paid, what we actually paid, especially in 1 month, this is going to bring up some alarms for us for sure. As we chart this out, so here's the 10 grand of planned value, actual cost, earned. You can see that this is easier to read. We're spending 8,000 to achieve 6,000 worth of earned value. Okay, that's huge. If I was at 6,500, I might not be worrying about it yet. But at this rate, I am definitely worried. If I extend this out, right? We expected 10, we paid 8 for 6, and we do this for 4 months, then this suddenly becomes an earned value of 24,000. But if this continues, we're paying 32,000 for an earned value of 24,000. Hopefully that makes sense. The 4 months, 4 times 6, 24 last time I checked. 4 times 8, 32. And so you can see we're definitely not on track as we expected to be for our project. All right, so we'll talk about and get into more of the cost metrics in the next video. Y'all take care.